We're going to begin this morning, though, in Ukraine, and a new wave of Russian missile strikes overnight, just one day after the United States and Germany agreed to send their battle tanks to Kyiv.
The capital was one of several cities that came under attack, forcing many to take shelter. The mayor says at least one person was killed, while military officials say that their air defenses did shoot down most missiles and drones. These strikes followed yesterday's announcement that America would send 31 Abrams tanks, days after downplaying the potential for such a move. Defending his decision, President Biden called these the most capable tanks in the world.
They need to improve their ability to maneuver in open terrain, and they need an enduring capability to deter and defend against Russian aggression over the long term. Secretary Austin has recommended this step because it will enhance the Ukraine's capacity to defend its territory and achieve its strategic objectives.
For more on this, we are joined by NBC News White House correspondent Carol Lee and Colonel Matt Dimick. He is the former director for Russia and Eastern Europe at the National Security Council. Good morning to both of you. Carol, let's start with you. Walk us through this decision by the president. Why now this shift in position?
Well, Joe, let's step back a little bit, this is something that the president's military advisors did not support. And yet this was an issue that among America's allies in Europe was really spilling out into public view, was causing a lot of divisions within the alliance. And so what the president did was he was trying to break this logjam to keep that alliance united. And what we're told is that last Tuesday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken presented him with a potential path forward, that the U.S. could give some tanks, they wouldn't arrive anytime soon, and that might free up Germany to also supply tanks and basically keep the alliance together. And so after that, the president tasked his team with figuring out whether or not that could work. And eventually on Monday, he met with the Secretary of State, his top military advisors, including Secretary Austin, and they reversed themselves and said, okay, here's an option that you could approve. And the president did approve that. So what we're seeing here is some political and diplomatic reasons for giving military equipment to Ukraine, whereas in the past, the administration has really maintained this position that they're only giving Ukraine military equipment that it actually needs on the battlefield.
So, Colonel Dimick, let's bring you in here. Russia's condemned this move by the U.S. and by Germany, which is bringing in those Leopards. The Kremlin said tank deliveries show a growing direct involvement in the war by NATO, and now we're seeing this new missile assault by Russia today. Do you feel this decision by the West to send these tanks is a dangerous escalation, or is it something that needed to be done?
It's definitely something that needed to be done. This is a decision that's welcome, and frankly, it's overdue. All credit to the administration for breaking through the logjam and figuring out a way to get Germany on board and unleash the Leopard tanks, which Ukraine needs more than anything. We've fallen into a predictable pattern when it comes to Russian reaction. There's lots of strong words, lots of rhetoric. They used to throw around loose talk about nuclear weapons, which has somewhat subsided in recent months, which is also welcome. But the Kremlin reaction is going to be the same. They've really got nothing they can do on the battlefield to resist it. And this is going to be a welcome addition to the Ukrainian forces and help them add an extra dimension to their maneuver warfare and add an extra dilemma for Russia's commanders in the field.
Carol, the president was asked yesterday if he felt like he was under pressure to send these tanks because Germany was doing the same thing. Did he feel that pressure? What's the connection between these two announcements coming around the same time?
Sure, he absolutely felt that pressure. And part of the big reason for that is that the Germans in their position, and they were being dug in, it was causing the alliance to fracture at a time when the president really thinks that the alliance needs to stick together. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia was gleefully watching the U.S. and its European allies fight about this. And so the president said that he wouldn't cave to Germany's pressure, but they sort of tried to pull together a resolution that wouldn't put the U.S. on the hook for sending tanks anytime soon. These are not going to arrive for months, if not a year. They still have to be made and refurbished to be sent. But in the meantime, Ukraine needs tank capabilities, and by the U.S. taking this step, they freed up Germany and others to then send tanks that are already there that can get there quickly into Ukraine for what's expected to be a spring offensive that the Ukrainians would like to launch against Russia. So in the end, the president decided that, you know, he was willing to not cave to German pressure, but try to find a crafty solution to keep that alliance together, Joe.
So, Colonel, I mean, as Carol mentions, these tanks are not going to be on the battlefield tomorrow. It's going to take some time. What kind of impact are they going to have on the war? Could they be a game changer at all?
You know, no individual weapon system is going to be a game changer per se, but having tanks on the battlefield, especially modern Western tanks with their superior firepower, protection, and mobility, will have an impact on the battlefield and will create problems for the Russians that they will have to provide resources against, which will open up opportunities on the battlefield for the Ukrainians. You know, these tanks in numbers and mass used in combined arms fashion will be able to tear some pretty big holes in the Russian lines at the time and place of Ukraine's choosing. And the Russians are just going to have to figure out how to deal with it. And the Ukrainians, with these tanks in their pocket, are going to have a number of tactical options available to them that they currently don't have now. And I think we're going to see effects on the battlefield when they're finally arrived in mass. And it's going to help future Ukrainian offensives, and could drive the tenor and character of the war and potentially shorten it.
All right, Carol Lee and Colonel Dimick, thank you both for starting us off this hour. We appreciate it.
In Northern California, the suspect accused of killing 7 people in Half Moon Bay appeared in court for the first time yesterday. NBC News national correspondent Miguel Almaguer has new details on the case.
Facing 7 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder, Chung Lee Zhao made his first court appearance. 2 police sources with direct knowledge of the investigation tell NBC Bay Area the 66-year-old admitted he felt disrespected by co-workers for years. Telling authorities his concerns were dismissed, the enraged senior citizen retrieved a gun and hunted down co-workers at the farm. Officers recovered a semi-automatic Glock, rounds of ammo, and a goodbye note to his wife.
This investigation is 2 days old. There's an awful lot more to learn. The penalty, if convicted of all the charges, would be life without parole or death.
The massacre in Half Moon Bay, California, comes as the Secret Service released a new report detailing trends in mass attacks, highlighting red flags before the next shooting. Personal grievances were among the most common motive, with 1/4 of attackers motivated by conspiracy theories or hateful ideology.
These individuals engage in concerning behavior, and this concerning behavior is evident to those around them.
That behavior perhaps evident in the 72-year-old who killed 11 in Southern California. Law enforcement sources say evidence points towards a personal motive. Former friends call the man angry and hopeless.
Only in America do we see this kind of carnage. What the hell is going on?
2 California communities are mourning, the latest in a growing list of American cities suffering similar heartbreak. As the vice president visits Monterey Park to console families there, the long legal process for the suspected gunman here in Northern California is just beginning. Back to you.
Miguel Almaguer, thank you.
It's one of the country's most closely watched criminal cases. South Carolina prosecutors are now laying out their double murder case against Alec Murdoch, a prominent attorney himself in the state. During yesterday's opening statements, Murdoch's defense attorneys described his client, accused of killing his wife and son, as a loving husband. NBC News correspondent Katie Beck takes us inside the courtroom.
A dramatic day of opening statements in the Murdoch murder trial. Prosecutors saying they have the forensic evidence to convict him. Defense attorneys calling him a loving husband and father.
We'll now proceed to opening statements.
The long-awaited legal showdown in the Murdoch murder trial.
Pow, pow. 2 shots, abdomen and the leg, and took her down.
Arguing 2 very different versions of the same story.
He didn't do it. He didn't kill Butcher, his son and wife.
Dramatic descriptions of his family's deaths at point bringing Murdoch to tears. Opening statements given to a jury of 8 women and 4 men who will spend the next several weeks following the evidence.
They were shot at close range and they did not have defensive wounds.
Prosecutors say forensics will prove Murdoch's guilt after a perfect storm of circumstances came to a head. The state contends Maggie was killed with a weapon owned by the family that was never recovered, and that a cell phone video captured at the murder scene just before the time of deaths puts Alec at the scene, contradicting his alibi that he only reached there when he discovered the bodies.
And he was there just minutes before with Maggie and Paul, just minutes before their cell phones go silent forever and ever.
But the defense argues there's no forensic evidence to tie Murdoch to the murders. No fingerprints, eyewitnesses, murder weapons, and despite the gruesome scene, no blood on Alec when police arrive.
You would be covered in blood from head to foot.
The defense argues a video taken earlier in the evening shows Paul and Alec enjoying time together, and that police pinned Alec as a suspect before investigating, even suggesting the crime may have been the work of two people because two different weapons were used.
They have pounded that square peg in the round hole, and you're going to hear about it. They've ignored some witnesses.
For the first time Wednesday, we saw several members of the Murdoch family inside the courtroom, including Murdoch's son, Buster. When court had adjourned, Murdoch turned to his son and mouthed the words, "Are you okay?" His son answered yes. In Walterboro, South Carolina, I'm Katie Beck for NBC News.
All right, Katie, thank you.
A severe winter storm is sweeping across the country this morning. There are 8 million people under some sort of winter weather alert. The good news, it seems the worst of the storm is behind us. People now focusing on cleaning up or digging out. The system brought a mix of tornadoes on the Gulf Coast and snow in states from Arkansas all the way to Massachusetts. NBC News national correspondent Gabe Gutierrez is in Concord, New Hampshire, tracking what's left of the storm. Gabe, good morning. What are the conditions like where you are?
Hi there. Good morning. Well, more snow here overnight, and this came after another winter storm blew through here earlier this week. Now, in the last few hours, it switched over to rain, and parts of the Northeast are now dealing with a very messy morning commute. Now, overnight, powerful wind and rain slammed into New Jersey, knocking out trees, and some 8 million people are now under winter weather alerts across northern New England. There's a travel mess across much of the country yesterday. In Detroit, a tractor trailer lost control and crashed into an interstate. Down south, there was major flooding yesterday in parts of Alabama. And this morning, tens of thousands of people in Arkansas are still without power. Now, the damage is also still being assessed just outside of Houston, where the National Weather Service confirms it was an EF3 tornado that slammed into that area, packing winds of up to 140 miles an hour. And there were actually 158 tornado reports this month alone, making it the most active January on record. Now, as for other parts of the country, though, it's been a highly unusual winter as well in a different way. New York City has not seen any measurable snowfall in 11 months, and that is almost a record, but clearly a different story here in New Hampshire. Back to you.
Okay, Gabe, thank you so much.
All right, so when is this all going to end? Is the system finally getting out of here? Let's get your News Now weather forecast.
Angie Lassman joins us now. Good morning, Angie.
Guys, I wish I had better news for you because this one's going to go out and another one's going to come in. I'll show you that next system here in a moment. But here's what's left over from that low pressure system that's moving out into parts of the Atlantic and into Canada. That's where most of the heavy snow is. And in Maine, we're still seeing some of these lingering snow showers in those areas. And by the way, where that system is leaves us with a west wind. And that means everyone downwind of all of the Great Lakes is going to continue to see, again, lingering snow showers through the day today. So still a little bit of a difficult kind of day in some locations across the area, but here's how quickly it moves out. There's some of those lingering snow showers, places like Cleveland, Buffalo. You could see a little added snowfall through the day today, but it won't be anything quite as impressive as yesterday. We have seen some of these watches and warnings and advisories as far as winter weather is concerned taken down. So now we're at 7 million people, some of those still into the Appalachians. You can see up into parts of northern New England. We do still have those winter weather conditions that we're watching for through the day today. Here's that next system that I mentioned. It's It's a clipper system. What does that mean? It means that it's a fast-moving system that comes out of Canada. It's going to bring some folks some snow, some cold air, and likely impacting you for the weekend. So here's how it plays out going through the day tomorrow and into your weekend. You can see this works into parts of the high plains and into the Great Lakes. That's where we'll see more snowfall for places like Michigan, who, by the way, yesterday received some locations up to 8 inches of snow. So it was a very snowy kind of day for folks there. They'll have an additional amount of snow working through as we head into the weekend. And that cold air really takes shape here for folks for Saturday and Sunday as well. Here's the snowfall forecast. Mainly those higher elevations in parts of the Rockies. You're going to see anywhere from 6 to 8 inches. That's where the more impressive totals are. Everywhere else, places like Bismarck, Fargo, even Minneapolis, just about an inch or so. And then we'll see that cold air that I mentioned spilling into parts of the high plains. Rapid City, as we get into Saturday, 17 degrees. This is 21 degrees below normal, just 27 for Omaha. But that's nothing compared to Fargo, which will be -4 as you get out the door on Saturday. So really chilly temperatures. Again, this is that Arctic air. 27 degrees for Wichita on Sunday, just 1 for Sioux Falls. 35 for St. Louis. These temperatures are lower than normal for this time of year. But Cincinnati, you hold strong into the 40s Monday and Tuesday before the 30s take shape by Wednesday. The weekend looks pretty good for many on the East Coast. Snow showers lingering for Friday in the Midwest. Plenty of sunshine across most of the southern half of the country, and then those above average temperatures stick around for the East Coast for Saturday. A couple of areas of rain on Saturday for the south, and then that flood risk is what we'll watch for parts of the south as we get into Sunday, guys. But
so did we get measurable snow?
We did not, Joe. So you know what that
still
means? We're headed for the record.
All right. Might break the record. My disappointment. All right. Thanks, Angie. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.